Oh yeah, it's Generator Rex. Oh yes, this show rocks! From Man of Action, who also brought you the Ben 10 franchise. A big ol' whammy kablammy causes nanites to spread across the globe and infect the human race. They lay dormant inside one's body until they randomly activate, turning them into horrifying monsters called Evos. An organization called Providence faces off against Evos. While they have powerful forces like Agent 6 on their side, they often send in their secret weapon, Rex Salazar, a teenage boy who's one of the few able to control his nanites, thus turning his body into mechanical weapons to weaken the Evos and use his powers to cure them. Possibly. Sometimes you're just fucked and you're stuck as a giant rabbit monster or some other ungodly abomination. Generator Rex was a great show, but man, did it get forgotten quick. You'd think it would have been a hit considering that not only was it made by the same production company as Ben 10, but it also premiered the same day as Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. In fact, if my memory serves me correctly, Generator Rex debuted right after Ultimate Alien, so that meant that any kid excitedly waiting to watch the next Ben 10 would see Generator Rex debut as well. But unfortunately, the show would often be overshadowed by its older brother, as it came during a point in time when action cartoons weren't doing as well. Action shows always had bad luck, but the early 2010s was especially bad. Symbionic Titan, Motor City, and Tron Uprising would all suffer during this era. Generator Rex only lasted 2 years, as its finale was dumped on PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, Zune, and iTunes? And it didn't broadcast on TV in the US until almost a year later? On a Thursday? Oh well, at least it was able to make a comeback in the form of a special for the Ben 10 reboot and a 1-second cameo in the OKKO special crossover Nexus. That's, kind of it, I think. But at the time, it seemed like Cartoon Network had high hopes for the show, because they were willing to let it get a video game. That brings us to 2011's Generator Rex, Agent of Providence.
Let's get this party started and tear something up.
Rex is out fighting and curing Evos when he finds a strange blueprint which gets stolen by Breach, a humanoid Evo that's able to open portals. Rex also loses some of his builds in the process. These blueprint pieces are being collected by the primary antagonist of the series, Van Kleiss, so he can create his own Omega-1 nanite. Rex already has one inside of him. This nanite allows Rex to create powerful Omega builds, which I'll go over later, but Van Kleiss is more interested in its self-replicating properties. Rex and Providence must retrieve the blueprint pieces before Van Kleiss has the information to recreate it. The story isn't too special, but it at least fits in line with the show, and with Rex facing old threats and going to familiar places, it feels like more than just another episode of the show. It's more like a two-part special. Visually, the game is serviceable for an early 2010s Xbox 360 and PS3 title. The only part that looks bad are the cutscenes. The characters move so wildly, it almost reminds me of Scary Godmother. You know, that old 3D animated Halloween movie based on a book of the same name that would air on Cartoon Network almost every year in the 2000s? Same goes for its sequel, Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, and Olive the Other Reindeer. The game is a 3D beat-em-up styled game where you can switch between any of Rex's builds to fight Evos and get from one side of the stage to the other, doing so with just a press of a button. Each build has its own purpose. The smack hands hit several enemies around Rex, as the big fat sword mainly focuses on whatever's in front of him. The slam cannon is used for range and sometimes solving puzzles. You can also use some of Rex's Omega builds to do lots of damage. This game does a great job at making attacks feel so satisfying. There's real weight that goes into every hit, and it fills me with joy when I smack the ever-living shit out of a giant monster that used to be someone's dad going to the gas station to get a pack of cigarettes. Well, he wasn't going home anyway. You can collect nanites from fallen enemies. These nanites can be used to upgrade your abilities and make you stronger. The game actually feels pretty good to play. It's not perfect by all means, but oddly enough, it feels more like the proper sequel to Ben 10 Protector of Earth that Alien Force the game should have been. Though I would still argue that Protector of Earth is still better due to the crazy amount of combos you can unlock. Not only this, but while the game tries to present a challenge with all the enemies that spawn, the number of health pickups makes it a little too easy. And unlike Ben's first game, it gets a lot more repetitive simply because there's only so much you can upgrade. But if we count Generator Rex Agent of Providence as a Ben 10 game, then I would still consider it the second best one. But it doesn't get too repetitive, as many levels have sections where the gameplay changes drastically. This is where Rex's movement-based builds come in, such as the Punk Busters, which are used for platforming challenges. God, I love stomping around in these things. It makes me feel like a badass motherfucker or a big mother trucker when Rex uses the Rex Ride. Really? That's what it's called? You couldn't think of any other name for this thing? Rex Ride, that's what you're going with? Not the Zoom Doom Boom Machine? Or even Help, I Can't Feel My Legs? Because I feel like those would have been better choices. Rex Ride, really. I wish I could say that the action just keeps going, but unfortunately that's not the case, as there are many moments where Rex will slow to a crawl as he talks to someone in Providence. Why does he slow down like this? I wanna punch a rabbit! Well, back then, game devs used to try and find ways to hide the fact that the game was loading. To give the game enough time to process what's up ahead, they would have these moments where characters would slow down. Sometimes they talk with other characters or themselves about what's going on. But many games back then would also abuse these moments to make the game seem longer than what it actually is, having you walk with a character as a substitute for a cutscene. This way, they can add it up to the total of hours of gameplay, as technically, as bare bones as it is, this is gameplay. This would be fine, but why do so many games insist on having these characters be faster than your walk and slower than your run? You know what I'm talking about. I'll sprint to catch up, but then you have to stop to let them go ahead as I wait to sprint again. Was it really so hard to make these characters the same speed as the player? Why are you the way that you are? Oh well, at least that doesn't happen here. And the bosses are pretty fun too. They put up a good challenge and are genuinely fun to fight, though some of them can be a little more frustrating than others. Most bosses also have a reaction time segment, which was very popular at the time. It was hard to find action games that didn't have reaction segments. After each level, you end up back in Providence. Here you can talk with everyone on the ship. Bobo, Rex's talking chimp companion, always has something new to say with each completed level.
Sorry, that Mushu's coming back on me.
Talking to Agent 6 allows you to replay any level in the game and enter a time trial mode where you must be Agent 6's time. Talking to Professor Holiday, she'll ask you to collect different samples from fallen enemies. In return, she'll willingly go on a date with a miner. This game gives you a lot to do. Agent of Providence is honestly one of the better Cartoon Network games. It's no masterpiece by all means. I mean, of course not. It's a 2011 licensed game. This is the year that Portal 2, Dead Space 2, Batman Arkham Asylum, and several other far better games came out. But for what it is, it's genuinely a pretty good experience. I would absolutely refer to this as an underrated gem. Before we go, I'd like to tell a story. I played this game when it first came out in 2011. I was 15 years old then. But I got stuck on the second level due to this puzzle where you have to use Rex's smack hands to turn pillars to change the image on them. I spent an hour trying to figure out what the combination was. But then I replayed the game last year to get footage of it, and it only took me a few seconds. So what was the solution? Literally the match to icons on the floor. I have no idea why 15-year-old me couldn't figure that one out. But then again, that's only a taste of all the dumb stuff teenager me would do that now keeps me up at night from constant regrets. I sincerely want to punch him in the throat.